In her distinctive white turban, Blanche Moila is a South African running icon. In the 1980s, Blanche won dozens of races and titles from 1,500 metres up to marathons and cross-country. In 1984, she became the first black South African woman to win Springbok colours, and a year later became SA Sportswoman of the Year. At the beginning of the 21st century, Blanche began her comrades journey. This year, she'll run her 20th Ultimate Human Race. And yet, in the community she hails from, near Polokwane, women were not encouraged to engage in sport. Instead, Blanche's dream was to become a nurse.
The school I attended didn't promote the girl child to excel at sport, but I wanted to do nursing all my life. My mother was a nurse. She was a professional nurse in Polokwane. She had a nursing home that was called Moila's Nursing and Maternity Home. And yeah, so that was always what I wanted to do, to help the helpless and serve the needy.
Blanche's life changed one day in 1980 when she took part in a sports day for the staff and patients at Fort Napier Hospital in Pietermaritzburg. Dr. Shorty Moila noticed her economic running style and invited her to join him on a training run. Blanche accepted, but wasn't prepared for what happened next.
We went on a 7K training run on my first day. And of course, without, as expected, I was in agony the next day. I couldn't tie my shoelaces and I had to go to work. And at the time, nurses had shoelaces. Shoes with shoelaces to tie. I couldn't even do that. I couldn't bend. I couldn't stretch my back. So, yeah. But he encouraged me to go out again about 3 times a week. And my body started adjusting.
Dr. Moila continued to push Blanche and registered her as a runner for a 21-kilometre night race in Pietermaritzburg. Unknown and unregarded, she was the 3rd woman across the line. People were naturally sceptical and wondered if she might not have run the full distance.
What's interesting is that it was a 2-lapper and very little experience, and I was the 3rd lady overall, my first race. But obviously, lots of people questioned whether I had done the distance, because it was a 2-lapper. Some thought maybe I just did one and finished 3rd, because at the time nobody knew Blanche Moila. In that same year of that 21K, I did a 10K in Durban. And what is nice is that it was broad daylight in the morning. So everybody could see that, I was legit. And once again, I finished 3rd behind Colleen de Ruyck and Sophie Tilburg at the time. So I finished 3rd and people said, okay, so that is Blanche Moila.
The big breakthrough for Blanche came when she won the SA National 10-kilometre Championships in Pretoria in 1984. A strong field included the likes of Alana Meyer, Colleen de Ruyck, who was then Colleen Lindecky, and Sonia Laxton. Here's how Blanche remembers that special day.
We were running a group most of the time. And then I think in the last 2 kilometers or so, I remember Tanya Peckham was also one of the top runners, more track than road, but she had lots of speed. She went ahead, and I thought, let me try and follow her. I didn't know much about the other athletes at the time, And then I was surprised as we got closer to the stadium. I just had that burst of energy, and I was able to win the title. It was just so satisfying, but a total surprise.
1984 was, of course, the time of Grand Apartheid. Pierre Botha's Rubicon speech came the following year. So the thought that a black woman could not just win a national title, but earn Springbok colours at the same time was almost unthinkable.
As much as there were some people who were not happy with my achievements, I think there were others that really supported me. And this came across all races and of South Africa, the Afrikaans speaking folk as well. So I had support from that part.
Blanche had begun a 43-year career as a psychiatric nurse at the King George V Hospital in Durban. It was a full-time job with a lot of unsociable hours, and so in order to maintain and improve her racing, she adopted a Spartan lifestyle and training scheme.
I'd run early in the morning if I was on day duty. I'd get up at 4:30 and run and then go to work. And I used to have a second session in my prime, and in the afternoon I'd run again or do cross-training, do some cycling and so forth. When I'm on night duty, same routine. Come off night duty in the morning, I'd go for a run and then go to sleep. And I found that I had a sound sleep. So yeah, I didn't really have a problem balancing my life with, running.
On the back of winning the national 10K title in 1984, Nike began a sponsorship with Blanche, which remains to this day. The company's swoosh is front and centre on that famous turban, but the real benefit was for running shoes and clothing that were out of reach for a student nurse.
They made it so much easier for me to be able to compete because we've got to admit, the prices of shoes were astronomical, and not many of us could really afford that. So I appreciate it and belonging to the Nike family.
After nearly 2 decades of competitive running, during which time apartheid ended and democracy began, as the 20th century came to an end, Blanche changed her focus and began her life as a comrades runner. She's since become an ambassador for the great race.
My first comrades was 2000? Yes. I think it was for 2 reasons. There was a hype around the year 2000 and also, in my community at the time, you were not a true runner if you hadn't done comrades. That was always a challenge I knew I'd have to take up at some stage. Although I had Springbok colours and I'd represented South Africa internationally a few times, my community still said, no, you've got to run the comrades. They call it the marathon. Granted, I do believe that it is really the marathon,
Now retired from nursing, Blanche still runs every day, and last year she was inducted into the G-Sport Hall of Fame. It was an award that recognised not just her running, but her tireless efforts to promote psychological health and sport for girls in school. Look out for Blanche at this year's Comrades.